And we're starting with Romans because it's the first epistle after the book of Acts. And, this is a short of an introduction to what the whole book is about. So in Romans 1, verse 1-6, it reads, Paul, a servant of Christ Jesus, called to be an apostle and set apart for the gospel of God. The gospel he promised beforehand through his prophets in the Holy Scriptures regarding his son, who, as his earthly life, was a descendant of David, and who through the Spirit of holiness was appointed the Son of God in power by his resurrection from the dead. Jesus Christ our Lord, through him we received grace and apostleship to call all the Gentiles to the obedience that comes from the faith for his name's sake. And you also are among those Gentiles who are called to belong to Jesus Christ. So Paul was writing to the Roman church at that time, around 67 AD, and they had a really interesting situation. And if you guys didn't know, when after the Jerusalem church was set up around 30 AD, then they were like, hey, let's go to the most prominent city of the whole Roman Empire, Rome. And so that's where most of the disciples started, and that's where they went off. Now all of a sudden, Emperor Claudius was like, man, all the Jewish people in Rome leave. So then they all leave. After 5 years, the church got set up. The church in Rome is now basically all Gentiles, non-Jews. And now when the Jewish people come back, they're like, oh, wow, our church is just non-Jews. And they're telling us what to do? What? And for so long, the Gentile converts basically at times disrespected the Jewish Christians. And so, that drew a different peg in the church. And the Jewish people were like, man, we started it. Man, we have the Old Testament. You don't. You don't get to decide what to do. And so that divided the church a lot. And Paul was like, hey, let's figure this out. And so that was the background. Continuing, Romans 1, verse 14-17. It reads, I am obligated both to Greeks and to non-Greeks, both to the wise and the foolish. That is why I am so eager to preach the gospel, also to you who are in Rome. For I am not ashamed of the gospel, because this is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes. First to the Jews, then to the Gentiles. For in the gospel the righteousness of God is revealed, a righteousness that is by faith from first to last. Just as it is written, the righteous will live by faith. And for some of us, we go, okay, how does that relate to us today? That's the Roman church from 2,000 years ago. How does that relate to us? Well, when you look at the church, we're filled with mature Christians who've been Christians for a long time. And let's be honest, some of us can get prideful. And if you say no, then, you got to check your heart. And some of us are young converts who just got recently baptized and who are learning the ropes of what Christianity is. That means waking up early, doing all these things, that's fine. And some of these young converts are stepping into leadership. So let's be honest, they don't know what they're doing either. And some of us can have issues about that. And, of course, the church is also filled with those wanting to become Christians. Not there yet, but still striving. And so this Roman letter is addressed to us as much as it is to the brothers and sisters back then. And, and even after all of that, Paul just goes, you know what? I'm just grateful it's about God. It's not about the church. It's not about the people. It's not about who you guys are. It's about God. Because without God, there is no church. And he goes, I'm grateful to the wise and to the foolish because I get to be here and to sit here wherever I am. And it's been, if you guys didn't know, our dear friend Leo and Evelyn came over last week. And, they're now leading the church in Taiwan. But it's really refreshing because if you guys don't know, me and him basically grew from the same ministry, in PaulU ministry. And we're both really grateful because we were just reminiscing of our past. We would be there in the R Corps, if you guys have been to PaulU. We would be there in the R Corps, just sitting down, sleeping, using university resources, going up to people, just inviting them, like, hey, Bible discussion, being insensitive here and there, making mistakes. Each of us were commenting, man, how far have we gone leading churches when you were wearing purple hair, white shoes, all of that fashion sense like MK's. Low-key, that's what I thought. And then he was like, man, you don't get to talk, you green shoes wearing, Uniqlo Mario t-shirt wearing, no gel-haired person that had red stains in his t-shirt. That was me. So we're just laughing like, 5 to 6 years later, who can imagine that we're here? But most importantly, not who would imagine, but I'm just grateful that you are faithful.
Yeah, true.
And we're just like, it doesn't matter our past. I'm just grateful to be a disciple. And it's really, really encouraging just to reflect all of these things. And so whatever situation you're in, aren't we just grateful to just know God? Whatever the past is, if you are part of the mission team or if you just got baptized. Doesn't matter. As we talk about the year of righteousness, we go back to the foundation of what Christianity is all about. In the Roman churches, they weren't like, guys, come on, how many Bible studies do you have? How many contexts do you have? What time do you wake up to read your Bible? That's not important. For them, they were just, I'm here to love God. Of course I read my Bible. Of course I learned about God. Of course I loved people. That's the whole point. There's no system. It was just about you and God. That's it. Push aside the politics. Push aside the human influence. That was the thing that they were trying to get back. At the same time, that is where we are trying to be as well. The title of my lesson today is just going through Romans 1 and 2. A faithful and fulfilling life. And point number 1, God demands a decision. Romans 1 verse 18 to 20. The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of people who suppress the truth by their wickedness. Since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. The question of God is undeniable and unavoidable. Throughout our lives, we will be forced to go into this question of, does God exist? Regardless of who you are, no matter where you are. You could have been born on the top of Mount Everest, but by 30, you would have had that question. No one has been spared the idea and the concept of Christianity. Colossians 1:23, this is the gospel that you have heard and that has been made proclaimed to every creature under heaven, and of which I, Paul, have become a servant. By 60 AD, what Paul said, every living creature has heard about God, about Christianity. And that's the same sense today. And it's undeniable. You can't, and the real question is, Christianity has lived out so long. The concept and the idea of God has existed in human civilization for so long. The only thing is, are you just ignoring it? Because let's be honest, God is like probably the first thing you'll probably learn, or you'll question. Maybe you've just ignored it so often that you've just forgotten. I've met complete atheists here in Hong Kong who come to believe in God for sometimes the weirdest reasons. There's one of our friends who, during the protest of Hong Kong, complete atheist, he was doing the riots and everything, and that's pretty crazy time. And all of a sudden the police were coming in. And they're like, oh dang, okay, I need to hide. Goes up into this building, it's a church. And then the priest inside is like, hey, come, hide here. And then they hid there and they were talking about this deep conversation of God, and it's like, in that moment, I believed in God. I'm like, if you go to the Philippines, everything is littered with a cross. Like, even if you are in the middle of nowhere, rural, all cows, your family probably has a cross in the middle of their car. So, not only that, but if you go to China, you go, okay, how can people in China know about God? I am so surprised of the people I meet on Hong Kong U campus. Some of them are mainland, and they're just like, oh yeah, I'm a Christian. Yeah, I go to church. Yeah, no problem. Statistically, there are more Christians in China than the UK. Let me tell you again. There are more Christians, God believers, in China than in UK. And, I've heard of sort of recent articles during the COVID as well. Some of the Christians in Wuhan, they were like, hey, nobody's dealing with this COVID problem. Let us go and let us serve the poor. So despite lockdown, they made every effort to give food to the homeless. And you tell me people don't know about Christianity in China? Taobao, they sell crosses for cheap. For sure, people go, what's that symbol? Oh, yeah, the Jesus guy. Yeah, okay, yeah, that guy. Maybe they don't have a relationship with Jesus, but they for sure know about it. And every single civilization on earth, from the Aztecs to the Chinese, the concept of God has always been present. There is no civilization that has no idols, that has no temple. Every civilization has it. Atheism is a new concept. Even the concept of university has started with the Catholic monks. So if you wanted to get a degree before, you had to face the church to a certain extent. So there is no excuse for a man to go, I've never heard of God. That is false. Come on. The issue is, do you want to respond or not? Romans 1 verse 21 to 25. For although they knew God, they neither glorified him as God nor gave thanks to him. But their thinking became futile and their foolish hearts were darkened. Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images made to look like a mortal human being, and birds and animals and reptiles. Therefore God gave them over in sinful desires of their heart to sexual impurity, for the degrading of their bodies with one another. They exchanged the truth about God for a lie, and worshipped and served created things rather than the Creator, who is forever praised. Drop down to verse 28. Furthermore, just as they did not think it worthwhile to retain the knowledge of God, so God gave them over to a depraved mind, so that they do what ought not to be done. The truth is, God is there. There's enough evidence. There's enough proof. People have just grown to not care. People's response, at the end of the day, your response to this question will change your path. Do you find yourself in that same position? How are you responding to the question of God? Will you delay the need for God? You know what? I'm 20 blank or 30 blank for everybody. There's no 10 blank, right? Yeah, there's no 10 blank. Yeah. Oh, shoot. Yeah. She acts so mature. I thought she was 20. Yeah. The two of them. Anyways. Just going back, apart from these young ones, will you delay your need for God? No, I don't need God now. Let me focus on my life for the moment. I'm busy with my tutorials. I'm busy with my high school. I'm busy with all of these different things. And even for me, I always push the idea of God aside. I'm like, I grew up in the Philippines. There's a church literally every 5 blocks from my house. Every 5 blocks is a milk tea shop and then a church. Sheila can confirm. They're like, yeah, Quezon City, roughly, yeah. And so for me, I'm like, I can push it. Like, if I need God, I could literally get a milk tea and then go to church right after. And so I left the Philippines to come to Hong Kong to study university. And I'm like, you know what? After the disciples met me and studied the Bible, I was like, you know what? This is not really for me as of right now. Let me live my life for a moment. So I studied the Bible on and off. I went to the Philippines and I came back. And I look at my life, I go, if I didn't believe in God, I would have lived my life exactly the same. I go to university, study, come back home, play games, sleep, and then do the same thing the next day. But I did that in the Philippines when I was studying there. The only difference now in Hong Kong is I did the exact same thing here in a different language with different food. But now with less time and less money.
Wow, okay.
So me not being a Christian, I saw myself every day was just the same thing, but worse. And so I needed a change. And that woke me up. It's like, I'm doing the exact same thing every day. what is gonna change?
Yeah, come on.
You know, is your response to God just to simply believe a lie just because it suits you? Because that's the life you want. And the biggest lie you can ever believe is, I have time to seek God later. Another lie you can have is, happiness is found in my job, in my work, in my degree, in money, in my spouse. Well, you get that a lot. And, I was walking around Hong Kong U campus, and that's one of the things that I got. I was like, I know I need God 20 years from now. I'm good for now, but let me bookmark you, okay? But you don't get to determine that. That's not for you to decide. And even last week, I was so shocked. I was like, on Saturday, me and Emma, we had a great date. We're having fun, eating great dinner, and all of a sudden I wake up to the fire alarm and to the idea that I might lose my house. To that idea that my clothes might not be there. This house might not be there. I might not be here. So I went to the fire escape going, is this the last time I'll see this fire escape? But you don't get to determine that. You might have a good day today, but you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We know many friends who've basically gone through the same thing. Lived a great life, car accident. Next day, bam, heart attack. Maybe some in this room. Anyways, but do you choose to live your life with a question of God simply to live a life of just pleasure and just emotion? Let me live the life I want, the house I want, the job I want. And people reap what they sow, sadly enough. Romans 1 verse 26 to 27. Because of this, God gave them over to shameful lusts. Even their women exchanged natural sexual relations for unnatural ones. In the same way, the men also abandoned natural relations with women and were inflamed with lust just for one another. Men committed shameful acts with other men and received in themselves the due penalty for their error. They have become filled with every kind of wickedness, evil, greed, and depravity. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, and malice. They are gossips, slanderers, God-haters, insolent, arrogant, and boastful. They invent ways of doing evil. They disobey their parents. They have no understanding, no fidelity, no love, no mercy. Although they know God's righteous decrees that those who do such things deserve death, they not only continue to do these very things, but also approve of those who practice them. This is a summary of the world, if you haven't realized. The world looks nice and pretty, but much of it describes that. How many times before I was a Christian, did I disobey my parents? Oh yeah, many times. A lack of love, no mercy. That's the world. And that's life. And the question we might be asking is, why is life unfair? I don't get what I want. I've lived a life different than what I expected. Life and my circumstances are just flat unfair. Congratulations. That's how it's meant to be. Because life is not about what you live now. It's meant to be what it's after. The whole point of this life is not to live a good life. I mean, partly yes. But it's what you do to decide where you go after you die. That's what matters. All of this unfairness should lead you to God, not away. But you're called to look at your life and go, man, life is unfair. My situation is unfair. Even as a disciple, even as a Christian, you see life is unfair. The ministry could be unfair. My husband, my wife is unfair. My job is unfair. Great. You need to see that God is behind that.
Come on.
And for some of us, we need to decide. Some of us, we go, okay, my life is not good. Let me change. Okay. But for some of us, you go, I'm living a bad life, but let me do it again. Maybe something will change. I just need to do better. Okay. I won't fall in the same mistake other people have. I am different. When I get $1 million, I won't fall into depression. When I get this job, I won't do overtime. When I get this PhD job, I won't. become my PhD, my professor's slave. Because I am different. I am better. When someone tells you not to do something, but that's how you feel. I'm different. I know better than these people. I won't do the same thing. Me and my brother, we do a lot of dumb things together, my physical brother. But the brothers can do it with me. My brother was told not to play with electricity. And there was one time he was using the adapter, just pulling in, pulling out, pulling in, pulling out. And one time the fuse exploded. And I was like, oh yeah, my brother's stupid, yeah. That would never happen to me, he's fine. And then I did the same thing. If you guys have the Game Boy Advance, if you know what that is. Yeah. It had one of the bigger sockets. Put it in, put it back, put it in. And then all of a sudden I was like, 3 seconds I was like, what's happening? My life flashed before my eyes. I don't get to university. This is when I was 12. But that's how we act, do we not? We think we'll live a better life. We think dating someone, perhaps a non-Christian, with different standards will do better for us if it didn't work for that guy, for that guy, for that guy. How many times do you have to go through the same mistake for you to learn? How many jobs do you have to go through before you learn your lesson? How many broken relationships do you have to get to know that you need a different standard? And so for most of us, we go, the Bible is just so many rules. No. The rules are for you, yes. But it's for other people so they know how to treat you. And point number 2, just to wrap things up. The fulfilling fruits of faith. Romans 2, verse 1-4. You therefore have no excuse, you who pass judgment on someone else. For whatever point you judge another, you are condemning yourself. Because you who pass judgment to the same things, you who pass judgment do the same things. Now we know that God's judgment against those who do such things is based on truth. So when you, a mere human being, pass judgment on them and yet do the same things, do you think you will escape God's judgment? Or do you show contempt for the riches of his kindness, forbearance and patience, not realizing that God's kindness is intended to lead you to repentance? Hypocrisy hurts. Nothing hurts faith. Nothing hurts conversions. Nothing hurts Christians more than hypocrisy. Because it's a blatant abuse of grace. So how do you treat people? Are you critical? Your standards are the law. People need to wake up based on my schedule. People need to be successful in my terms. If there's anything that is even remotely wrong, as a 0.1 mistake, you go, oh, you're wrong. Are you easily nagging? Oh, you should have done this, done this, done this. Show no grace. Are you harsh without love? Nitpicking. Oh yeah, Jackson, you look handsome, but there's like a little tiny hair on your coat. Ugly. It's okay. He has a girlfriend, and they'll encourage each other. Are you legalistic? I remember me and a couple of the disciples, the Christians, we went to a gym 6 years ago. 6 years ago, around Whampoa. It's called Goji. It's a horrible experience. But if you guys know the gym experience in Hong Kong, they hard sell you everything. You come in and you don't think it's a gym, but partly it's a cafe, reception, hotel maybe, classes on the back, bathrooms, sauna, all of these things. And there's even a small section where there's a weighing scale and then other equipment. And I've been going for 2 months. And one day I go in, they go, oh, you should join us for personal training. And so they weighed me and go, bro, you're still so fat. You've been coming to the gym for 3 months and you still haven't changed this. Bro, you're wasting your money. You're wasting your money. And it was negative because I was like, what the heck? I just come in for a regular training and I get bombarded with this. And so I sit there and they charge me $200 an hour for personal training. They made a WhatsApp group. I send the food that I eat and I go, bro, this is horrible. Don't eat that. Don't eat that. Don't eat that. Bro, you're still fat. All of these things for a month. So I left the gym going, man, okay, I don't want to work out. I'm called fat many times. And I don't want to go back to this gym. And so after COVID, well, that closed. So I left just going, I've wasted money. Why? Because it's just criticism. And I'm grateful for Marcus who trains us. I'm like, he's just here using his own time to train us. And he goes, bro, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. That's why he's a lot of students. But that's how you train. That's how you learn from people. When you criticize people, you admit and pass judgment that you've never done that in your life. Wow. Do you have that resume? How dare you're late for 5 minutes? Have you been late 5 minutes? Yes. Be quiet. How dare you wake up 5 minutes late from your alarm? Sorry, have you done that before? Yes, you don't get to say that. Dang, some people, yes. But whenever you do that, when you don't have grace, you basically go to God and go, yeah, I'm doing the judgment for you. Oh, wow. And you have no place to do that. Yet it was always grace that breeds change. Yeah. Grace should move someone to change, not abuse it. That's why I'm really grateful for the brothers' household. So the house of the brothers, so 5 of us live together. And I'm very grateful. I think it's very, very humbling. I've asked everybody, okay, what do you think? Suggestions for the house. And I compiled it yesterday. It's 6 pages long. With pictures. Romans font 12. With pictures. So it's okay. Bullet points. Okay. So if you want to extend that, please, send it over. And I'm very grateful because, nobody, at least for me, nobody's come up to me and go, bro, your household is this. But each and every one of them, I wish the household could be better. And I want to help you guys change this, and change this. I'm very grateful for the sisters who have done a lot in the background, Shiny buying candles, buying these pans and things like that. Because they have the great hope that the house would change. And that's moved me to change the house. Not because, people have said, bro, this. They've criticized, but out of hope and out of faith. Do you judge justly then? Or do you take God's justice as a joke? Romans chapter 2, verse 12 to 16. All who sin apart from the law will also perish apart from the law. And all who sin under the law will be judged by the law. For it is not those who hear the law who are righteous in God's sight, but it is those who obey the law who will be declared righteous. Indeed, when Gentiles who do not have the law, those who are not Jewish, who do not have the law, the Old Testament, do by nature things required by the law, they are law for themselves, even though they do not have the law. They show that the requirements of the law are written on their hearts. Their consciences also bearing witness, and their thoughts sometimes accusing them, at other times even defending them. This will take place on the day when God judges people's secrets through Jesus Christ, as my gospel declares. Righteousness has always come through obedience. And this obedience, in turn, faith. You can believe in all the things you want, but if you don't follow through, you don't get anything. I grew up believing in God in the Philippines. And if you gave me Bible questions on because I go to Sunday school every single day. If you have questions of, okay, how many years did Noah stay, or how many years was Noah alive, how many boats, or whatever this, I would know. Wow. Every week we'd probably have a Bible quiz. Yeah. And so as a child at 12, I'm like, yeah, I know the answer. Every single music that they were singing, I know every single action. And give me oil in my lamp, keep me But I knew everything to the dot. But that did not mean I was righteous. You ask me, bro, forgive your brother. Forgive? What's there to forgive? I'll just ignore him. You ask me to read the Bible yourself? Nah, I'll just stay on Facebook. I knew all these things up here, but I did not follow through. And that's not faith in God's eyes. And yet, it is so faith-building to see those that want to obey, and they're rewarded with faith. You know, it's been incredible studying the Bible with people, and you see how God rewards them in their faith. You see this miracle happen in their life, and you just go, dang, I wish I was that guy. You know, even being able to hear our great friend Wayne's story. You guys don't know, like, this guy is a non-Christian. You know, he came from China, didn't believe in God. And all of a sudden, we give him, like, bro, if you want to understand God, if you want to see God act in your life, you got to put him first. And then he goes, you know what? That's true. I need to put God first. I need to come to church. But I have an exam on Saturday. And he goes, okay, that's okay. Let me seek first the kingdom. He goes on Wednesday to study for one day for his exam on Friday. That Friday, because he made that decision, God goes, I see you. I see your heart. The exam that he took, 4 of the questions appeared in, these 4 questions appeared in previous exams. He goes through previous exams, copies those exact 4 questions on his how do you say, required, not legal, but you can have a cheat sheet. So he copies those 4 exact questions on the cheat sheet, goes to the exam, gets shocked, goes, wow, God is really working. And so from there, he keeps going, goes, I want to have more faith. I want to have more faith. You know, goes up to his boss, bro, Wednesday, Sunday, I want to come to church. Boss gives it to him in a McDonald's job. Which on Sunday, peak hours, roughly. And Wednesday also peak. And, you know, even he came to the Bible discussion on Friday, even if he had a presentation on Saturday morning. And he finishes it, he gets you know, pray for that one. A lot of things happen in that one. But he's going. But, you know, you see God work in someone who's learning about God. You see the miracles happen in his life. And sometimes we go, why doesn't anything happen in my life? Because maybe you're not acting with faith. You know, I appreciate Helene. You know, yesterday we had a Chinese devotional where the Chinese Christians come together from mainland China, Taiwan, and all these things, and we just go, hey, let's worship God together. And she was in a softball practice. And then if you guys were in Hong Kong yesterday, you saw the wind. 5 minutes, boom, rain, bam. You can't see in the next 5 meters. And if you guys were in Hong Kong, one of the signs literally fell. The doors flew open. It was a crazy typhoon. Nothing broke. But, you know, she was like, okay, dang, okay, I need to go to this event later at 4, but I'm still trapped with no umbrella in this in this pitch. And all of a sudden, he asked one of the aunties, can you hitch me a ride? And they go, hitching a ride in Hong Kong is very difficult. Mind you, not everyone owns a car. If you do that in the Philippines, it's super easy. But in Hong Kong, that's almost impossible. Yet hitches a ride comes on time. Without a drop of rain. Dry. There we go. You know, many want to grow in faith. Many want to trust in God. Yet do you put yourself in a position where God would work? Or do you always put yourself in a position where you would work? Last time I checked, you didn't make miracles. You know, how can you expect God to work when you already planned a way for it to happen? When you have a backup option? I have faith that it won't rain tomorrow. Then why are you bringing an umbrella? Why do you want a job from God if you have 5 jobs in your pocket already? And 5 jobs that don't fit in God's kingdom. You know, what situation has God put in you, and what is God calling you to obey in? Will you choose to run away, or do you want to bold in your faith and have greater faith? And just to end, I want to lift up a great brother in Brisbane. He recently got baptized. His name's Leo. But Leo, is in Australia. He moved from Taiwan. And, after experiencing a painful breakup in his 30s, he started questioning about life. And so our dear friend Solomon challenged him. He's like, bro, if you want to change your life, seek to become a disciple, a Christian for 2 weeks and see how that happens. And so in these 2 weeks, he looked, he searched, he gave up his own personal time to seek for God. And what was even crazy is, if you just moved from a different country, maybe your English is not that good. So he comes in, Brian and Millie, who were from Taiwan, is also a Christian, also part of that church. Now they relate, going, hey, I lived here, we're both in Taiwan, yeah. And now you see in Brisbane, like 3 Taiwanese technically. But, they were able to help him see the difference. And, because of that, he began to experience the God's love and power, and then he became a disciple. But that takes faith. He had to go, I need to give up some of my time because I need to search for these answers. In the same way, what leap of faith are you taking in your faith with God? Just to conclude, the title of my lesson today is A Faithful, Fulfilling Life. Point number 1, God demands a decision. Well, let's be honest. God is not a foreign concept in Hong Kong.
That's right.
Like most people have probably studied in a Christian secondary school.
Very true.
People know of God.
Yeah.
The only question is, what are you doing about it?
Yeah, come on.
And point number 2, the fulfilling fruits of faith. Are you acting in faith towards the people you know, towards your job, towards your prospects, towards your life? My challenge for you is to study the Bible. Choose to obey God and put Him first. And with that, to God be glory. Amen.